As for your hosts, I'm Erik Koto, COO of QuestionPro. Been with QuestionPro just coming up on 10 years here. So been a good long journey. So I have some deep history on the company. Anup has been around just as long. Anup is our VP of Product and Engineering, knows everything about everything on the product side. So I think we've got a group of folks here who can hopefully answer all your questions. So let's get started. What's new on the course surveys platform? A few things we're going to run through. We're going to start with what has recently been released. Now, these have come out in Q3, so all these things are live, although a couple of the features you'll see there are still in beta. So some of our customers have access to them as beta testers. They will be rolling out very soon for the rest of you. I'm going to walk you through 3 new features there. And then Anup is going to spend some time on what's coming up in Q4. I think we have an even better roadmap for what's going to be launching in Q4 than what we've just launched in Q3. So lots of good stuff on the radar. So, okay. First thing we're going to tell you about here is the multilingual email templates. So I know a number of folks out there use our multilingual. Increasingly, we see volume where people are programming multilingual surveys. So you create a survey first and say English, but you have some Spanish-speaking clientele, some German-speaking clientele. It's always been very easy to create multilingual surveys in QuestionPro. For as long as I've been here, the last 10 years, we've done that. This is going to really change your workflow and your ability to set up email templates and smooth the workflow of sending out those multilingual surveys. So this here is in the send section of our application. When you send an email template, what you used to have to do is create a separate email template for each your Spanish clientele, your German-speaking clientele, your English-speaking clientele, and then separate email lists. And you would go through and manually send 3 separate batches, which was not terrible, but not very convenient. So what we now have launched is the ability to, when you create a English survey template, as we show here, on the upper right hand of that screen, you're going to see the multilingual section, and you can create Anup, what is it? 100+ languages now that we support, so even more. And you'll be able to create a new version of each one of those. And it's not a separate email template. Just as in our surveys, you don't create a separate German survey. You only have one survey that is then coded into a separate language. You only have one email template that gets coded into separate languages.
Absolutely.
Yep. We've also launched our very popular auto translate. This thing is really good and getting better. Some smart AI here that will instantly translate your survey. So you punch that, you get your invite translated into the appropriate language. Now the cool thing about this is actually not that. What it is it really smooths your workflow out. So the way you execute on all this now, instead of creating different language templates and doing different lists and different batches, is it all keys off the email address that you put into QuestionPro. So most of you are typically uploading an Excel sheet or a CSV file of respondent email addresses into QuestionPro. When you upload that respondent email list, include a language as a field. Very easy to do this. I'm not going to go through and demo this whole thing. If you have questions, we can run through that in the AMA, but very easy to upload and include a language attribute in the email list. From there, you're pretty much done once you've created your templates in other languages. So what we do is we take that language and then we auto send the correct email template, which is also going to auto select the correct language version of the survey. So now it's really a one-step workflow. As long as you get that email into the list there, it's going to batch and push everything out correctly for you. So if clients sending out surveys in 15, 20 different languages, this is going to super, reduce your burden. But anyone really working on some of these multilingual projects will have a much easier time using that. So excited to roll this out and have people start using it. This is live today, so go check it out in the distribute section of the QuestionPro app. So that's one great thing that we launched, going to make your life easier. Next, I'm going to tell you, in this fact, I'll even show you a little bit of our custom validation messages. So this is a cool feature. People have requested this. Actually,
gonna interrupt you first.
Yeah.
Interrupt you for a second,
Please,
Koto.
please.
The pointer when you go to the next screen, especially when our fonts are low, see if you can switch to the Google.
Get my
the
pointer.
Google
Yeah.
Yes. There
we go.
You did show some pretty cool features there, which you want to make sure everybody sees it.
All right, everyone can see my mouse now. Unfortunately, I'm going to jump into the app, and I think the pointer doesn't work in our app, but that's all right. I'll do my best to demo this and make sure that everyone can see this. So custom validation messages. I'm actually going to just jump straight to the app and show you here. So here I am in QuestionPro. Hopefully this looks familiar to all of you. I'm in the workspace of a survey, and I've just set up a very basic customer experience survey here. And I recently stayed at Sun River Resort here, and so I'm going to use them as an example. How satisfied are you with your stay at Sun River Resort? Kind of a very standard question. And here is the validation. This is basically what forces you to answer the question or not. So the current experience here for the respondent is, it's a validated question. I'm going to choose to skip it, and you get a message, please select an answer. We've gone through and created all of these for you. And we've had over the years people requesting the ability to customize these. And so we finally launched that. It is in beta. This will be rolling out to all of you very soon. But right now, if you're a beta customer, you see this little yellow tag, and that means it's a beta feature. And here's the link for your custom validation messages. I think what's great about this, the requests we got were never like, this is a blocker, I can't get my job done. It's really, I could really enhance the respondent experience if you could just let me tweak these validation messages. So what you can do here is, it looks like I already have one saved. You can type in your own validation. So here's the default validation message, please select an answer. I would type in, please tell us about your experience at Sun River. And this is a great example. It just makes it that much more personal. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to go back to my preview window here. I'm going to skip this question again, except now instead of the generic, please answer, you're going to get a, please tell us about your experience at Sun River. It just adds that little element of kind of personalization, customer friendliness to it. There's a lot of great use cases I can think for this, currencies, proper names, brand names that you can work into your survey. We save these all too. So as you saw, I didn't have to type that again. It was already in my saved validation messages. So as you go through on across surveys, even you can reuse the same validation messages. That all goes into a library. And we've set this up for all different questions. So here's a matrix question. There's more than just one simple validation here. And so you can control all of the validation messages across even our more complex survey questions. If you needed to go back and edit your validation messages, you can do that through the org setting here. You go to your organization, you go to your libraries, and in your libraries, we now have a library of validation messages. So you can go through here, you can upload new ones, you can delete them if you've made a mistake and don't want that in there for other people to work with. So really nice kind of personal touch, and just gonna make your respondent experience that much easier and more fluid and personable. So 2 new things. Anup, if there's any questions, I can kind of pause here now for folks.
Yeah,
pretty straightforward features.
One thing I know you went over it pretty lightly, Erik, is the beta feature. If you could just go back to your UI. Yeah, so that small icon you see on the right-hand side of the menu is our beta indicator. So if you folks want to beta any feature out, just raise your hands in the chat, and one of our members, either Karthik or my good friend Sanket, can add you into our beta list, so you can test these features out before it becomes prime time. So this is already beta tested by at least 20 customers as we speak, and they're giving us feedback. But they also have the ability to help with the roadmap of the product itself, give us early feedback such that they get the best possible bang for the buck. So this is it. Appreciate that, Erik. So I'll probably go into my slide now. Is that
yeah? Go ahead and
okay.
Jump on in there.
Perfect.
I'll monitor for questions here.
I'll share my screen. Okay. Okay, my screen's visible.
We got you.
Okay, I'm gonna go to presentation mode here. Make sure I am in the right place before going to presentation mode. There we go. Okay, so for people who have joined a little later from the time Erik kicked it off, there were two things he presented. One of them is what you see up on the screen, which is custom validation. And the other one was, Erik, I forget.
Multilingual email invitations.
There we go, multilingual email invitations, an advanced feature, especially for the large enterprises. So what I'll be talking about, next screen here, is user roles and management. So pause here for a bit. I want to make sure my video is turned on too. Everybody can see me. Hi, hello. Okay, that kind of drives home the message, this cartoon strip from Dilbert. Large companies, enterprises, unfortunately cannot live without roles and permissions. And we have taken that concept and pushed the capability of managing multiple permissions into the platform. So what does it mean for you when you have different people working on different things? Let's take an example of an administrator who has access to everything. And I want to make sure I have I'm still having a challenge with my pointer. Let's see if I can get that right. As long as you guys can see the mouse, we should be good to go here. But an administrator has access to everything. An integration team will have access just to the data flow within the platform back to their business warehouse and databases. So they just need access to the integration side of the platform. And likewise, you have a data analyst who has access to the analytics side of the platform. So what does it do? It really gives you the permission to have access to different areas of the system. So an integration team member would have access to the integration section within the team, within the platform. And they won't have access to editing a survey and modifying the data. Similarly, a data analyst would have access to the reporting functionality, and they can download spreadsheets, SPSS, and use that for their internal reporting. Now, there are questions which are coming up. I know Karthik is just pinging me, but while the questions come up, one of our team members are going to answer as I go through the presentation. If you want to unmute yourself, feel free to unmute and interrupt me. We have no problems with that. Okay. So what's happening in the future? Let's talk about that for a bit. Q4 2020, a lot of things are in the pipeline. Some of them, like I said, are already in beta, and feel free to ask for access, beta access, and we can give you that access. So big one, review and collaboration. So as we know, all of us are in this together with the COVID situation. Now, people going remote does mean that you have to collaborate more on digital assets. And one of the digital assets we have, as you know, is a survey. When you do collaboration remotely, things can get a little messy, and we have started putting a strong roadmap together to enable collaboration inside the platform. So let me walk you through it. So what you see here is it's a pretty heavy screen. So I'll go straight into the demo itself. Just bear with me for a second. There we go. Erik, can you see the screen?
Yep, looks good. Looks good.
Good. Oh, okay, very good. This is not your standard edit screen, which Erik just walked you through. This is a new update to our compact view. So what do we have here? We call it the review mode on the right-hand side. And it has a compact view of all the questions in your survey. So as you see here, I don't have my answer options for each of those questions. It's a pretty heavy duty survey here. But what we also have is all the icons representing different logic types associated to the survey. So I can expand and I can see what are the answer options I have underneath each of these questions. So those icons represented validation logic, and answer display logic, and a show hide question logic. And if I want to start reviewing this in a bird's eye view, I go into this kind of mode. What I can also do here is add reviewers on the right-hand side. So I have this pop-up, and I can add reviewers both inside the organization and external reviewers. So when you're a small research agency, what happens is you have people you collaborate with, which are outside that agency, and they have to give you feedback, and this enables you to do that. So the other big piece, version 1 of our collaboration, is to add comments. So if you see these icons on the right-hand side, you can actually add comments on your individual question or at the block level. So here, I'll add comments. I already have people putting in comments here. For this example, I have Abraham, who has put in a comment, and John Doe has replied to it. And you could see multiple replies within the same comment thread. So that's in a gist, at a gist what's happening on this screen. A lot of things happening, but it helps put the foundation for collaboration. When you see the right-hand side with comments, what also happens is, let's say Abraham puts in a comment and John Doe is not inside the system. John Doe does get notified by email that there's a comment on a survey which Abraham needs feedback on. So that is also a feature within the system where, as part of the workflow, you could bring in multiple people at the right time. Okay, so that's coming in Q4 2020, and it doesn't stop there. That's the most exciting piece here. So what happens in our collaboration roadmap is, this is phase number 1, get the foundation right with the review mode. Step 2 would be to get a draft and publish right. What do I mean by that? When you have a lot of people working on things, you have a survey which goes into production, and then as the survey is in production, you want to make changes. So you would push that survey back into a draft mode. You would make changes before you push that back without affecting a live survey. The third thing we are planning to do is to get multiple people working on the survey at the same time. And that's a complicated technical problem, but we have our technical folks here. If you have questions around how we're going to make that happen, they can answer that. Changelog, critical for an enterprise, especially when you are capturing data, and especially when you're trying to delete options within a question, for example, right? So changelog on who did what when will be part of the roadmap. Last but not the least is versioning. So if you want to go back to an older version within your survey, you can make that happen. Okay. So this is in beta. The next feature I'm going to talk about is the text highlighter. I will go into that right now. I have a survey in my account. This is the survey I'm looking at. And what we have is a new question type, which you can have access to by going to your add question workflow. And it's not underneath your basic, but underneath your advanced question type. And this, as you see, is a beta question, which you can add into your survey. And what does it do? It's pretty straightforward. You can get text from your marketing content, your sales content, any text you need feedback on. In this example, I've actually copied our QuestionPro text from homepage, which Crystal and Erik created a couple of months ago. And I copied and pasted that text here. So you copy and paste text, step 1. Step 2 is you define what the tags are such that you can get feedback from your respondents. In this case, I use likes and dislikes, and it's easy to create a tag. You click on this, you add option, and you call it, remove text, for example, right? And you can color code it with an array of colors, or just choose an HTML code which you think should be there. So I'm not going to use this text. I'm not going to use this tag. I'll delete that for now. And I will preview this question type from a respondent standpoint. So this is the text you see as a respondent, and you want to give feedback. Let's say this is survey software for everyone. Maybe it should not be everyone. It should be for researchers. So I'm going to mark this text and say dislike Let's change text to researchers. Save. Complex insights. I don't know what that means. So I dislike that. Doesn't mean anything to me. And I like the fact that you have customized branding. So I'll say I love this, like it. Love the point and click you folks have. And essentially submit this feedback on this text. And what happens behind the scenes is we aggregate the data in our analytics screen. So how do you access that? You go to analytics, you go to text analysis, and you click on text highlighter. And right now I have a lot of green, dark greens and light greens. It shows the intensity. The intensity corresponds to how many people actually marked that text and highlighted that text. So it's all the likes. I can see all the dislikes. And you see that security seems to be, heat mapped out stronger than the rest of the text. And I can see how many respondents actually disliked text and how many likes were there, or how many highlights were there for the likes. All the text, corresponding text associated with the likes and dislikes. Now, if you really want to know the corresponding text for each of the likes and dislikes, we have an Excel export, which I've already downloaded here. And you can see the answer options in column O, the corresponding text, the highlighted text. Hopefully everybody can see the screen. Erik, can you see the screen, the Excel document?
I got you. Yeah.
Perfect. And the comments on Q. So the like and dislike options, the highlighted text, and the corresponding comments, all in a simple Excel export. So let me go to the next feature. I know I'm moving a little too fast, but
that's Erik, all right. We'll just pause for a second. We've been getting some good comments in the thread, and I think we've been responding to all of them as they come through. But just a reminder, if you have questions, either unmute yourself and just interrupt us. You are more than welcome to do so, or place a comment in the comments thread, and one of our folks on our team will get back to you.
Perfect. Thanks for doing that. Anything I should be answering as we proceed, or we're good to go? Any questions?
Okay, actually, Josh just had a question. Are there now or plans or future plans for any built-in analytics to say how many people liked or disliked a specific word or section?
A specific word within the text highlighter? Is that
I guess a count of specific, how many
words.
People, let's say, disliked complex insights, for example, I think is the question Josh is asking there.
Got it. Yeah, we have that at the full fragment, as you see here, complex insights. The full fragment is highlighted, so we know how many people have disliked complex insights. We do not have the reporting capability right now, but that's pretty straightforward for us to add on. A couple of things we're going to do here.
We've captured that data. We just need to expose it.
Absolutely right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, as I was looking at it, I was like, if there were 200 people that, that answered this question, and then, I have an array of likes or dislikes, and I'm like, okay, well, I need to see what has more than other disliked, and kind of deep dive a little more into it. It'd be really nice to have that pull up through your analytics.
Right.
Yeah, so that's a really easy grouping to do. I think we just got to figure out how to expose that.
Right, Josh. And thanks for bringing that. There are a couple of things, Koto. The one is a feature request to show the top. It's like a leaderboard of top text phrases. Yep. Both rank order, because right now you don't know. Right now it's just the heat density, which you say security is not dislike, just dislike. We don't know how bad it is compared to for everyone. Right? Is it the same count? We don't know yet. So that's a view which has been proposed. There are a couple of options there. We'll probably go down the leaderboard path. The other one was, I think you pointed it out while I was doing a demo, is the correlation between this text and the actual comments. It's a little hard in this UI. Yes, I know we have a spreadsheet, and you can correlate that text commentary with the text itself. So that is going to be more easier. And if you can use a little bit of imagination here, it's going to be tied up like a bubble on this text highlight itself. So you'll see that there's commentary associated with this text. So it's much more.
So you'll be able to hover there and see the associated comments.
Absolutely right. That's the thinking. The third thing which came up, which bad on us, but we will make sure we listen to customers a little more earlier in the product development cycle, is to include as close to the marketing content itself. What I mean by that is right now this is copied from the homepage, and you know where it is, Erik, right? Where we copied it. The fonts are different, right? There's an H1 font and there's an H2 and an H3. And the font representation has to remain as close to the marketing content as possible. Right now, it's not that. We're not allowing for rich text editor. So that's something we will allow for as close to the branding content or text marketing content here, so that people can give us feedback, right? So
makes sense.
Those are big enhancements we're making. So this is our version 1, and that's why it's in beta. Let's get it functionally working first before we get into the sexiness, I guess, of the product.
Well, I think that makes sense. I mean, you're not just testing the content, you're also testing the different emphasis you've placed and different headlines and actual font and style choices to some degree.
Right.
So
right.
That's a good V2. That'd be cool.
Absolutely. And like I mentioned, we have, you can filter this by the filters we already have in play. You have an Excel report and SPSS and all that is already part of the platform, so it comes in along with this feature.
While we're on it, I got another question here. Will the rich text editor also include source code editing? I guess.
Yes, the answer is yes. You can as our rich text plugin, I can showcase that to you as we go through this. Includes right now, all these things are allowed for, and you have a source code editor right now. Let me see. I think Sanket can come in and help. Yeah, there you go.
Hey, Anup. You will have to disable the 508 compliance, and then you'll see the source code. But yes, source code will be available. Yeah.
Right. So that's a valid point Sanket brought up. The 508 compliance is a must-have within the platform to ensure educational institutions and accessibility requirements are met. If you disable that, obviously you can have source code editing happening. Perfect. Thanks for answering that, Sanket. I appreciate it. Moving on, if there are no more questions.
That's it. Let's roll.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so this is exactly the animated GIF of the same thing I showed you live. I'm not going to dwell on that. I will move on to our biggest work packet for this quarter, which is multiple report views. Now, I'll go straight into demo mode for this. I do need a different environment, so bear with me. Let's see if I can go into our labs environment. Okay, so I have a survey already created in my survey list. It's called Product Research 2020. It's really a survey around feedback for a specific product, and I'm asking questions around gender, age, when did you first hear about the product, the frequency of purchase, where do you normally buy the product, and what do you think about the quality of the product? So it's a very generic survey around products. This feature I'm talking about is a key enhancement around our analytics side of the platform. So when you click on analytics, what we have on the left-hand side is multiple views on this side, multiple views of the same data. Okay, so we have an overall report, and I have a report already pre-created here for my sales team who cares about the frequent purchase type of customer. So I click on that. And when I click on that, as you see, my report name has changed. This is meant to be shared with the sales team. And I do have a filter already created. In this case, my purchase frequency is selected with once a week. And how do I monitor, or how do I change this filter? I would click on the settings here, and I'll default into my filters view, where that question, which is the purchase frequency question, is defaulted to once a week, or selected, the filter is selected as once a week. Now I can change the filter. I can have additional frequencies created here or selected. And now I have a different view of the same data. So the big call out here is all the changes on the report is within the settings screen. As you see here, if I open this up, I can have my filters there. I can change my design of the report. I have things I can show and hide within the report, which is my summary card, statistical calculations, response ID in case I need those. I can hide and show those, all within this settings on the top right. That's call out number one. Obviously, the real reason why we have this is having the same report manifested as different views for different team members within the organization. So let's look at marketing for a bit. Marketing data, they do care about the gender, care about the age, and how did you first hear about your product? And how did I make this happen? By just doing a simple change in your display options of which questions that team cares about. So you have this whole list of questions which you can show and hide depending on the view itself. Now, if I care about my boss, if I want to send this to Koto, he might only care about the quality of the product. And in that case, the corresponding questions are selected. A different theme is selected. A red theme is applied to it, and I can share this report with my boss. So that's at this is the high level of what this feature contains. Again, multiple views for multiple team members. I think that's
so. Anup, a couple questions
work.
that came up here have already been answered in the thread, but will you be able to create more than one report per survey? And definitely, that is the heart of the development here, is that you'll be able to create multiple reports, again, just different layered views, and send those out to different stakeholders that you have in the project.
Absolutely. I think one of the things I've seen, for example, Karthik demoing out with his typical sales demos is multiple types of filters applied to the same report, and he had to go and change it when he shows the demo. So now you have 3 filters, you can apply that, 3 different views, and you can switch back and forth between these 3 different views. So it's pretty powerful that way in terms of a workflow standpoint.
How many different, this is Josh again asking, how many different reports can be created off the same survey?
It really depends on the license level. I think Karthik or Sanket could answer that better than I do. On the enterprise, I think there is 10, I believe. Sanket, do you have that top of your head? Or
yes, that's 10 with the enterprise. So you can create up to 10. If you need more, we can, of course, add those views.
And I think one of the cool things that came up in the development of this isn't really just about sharing with your stakeholders. As we talk to some customers and talk to our sales teams, this is also just for the primary user to do analysis. It's almost like a snapshot for you to go back and compare different views and segments in a much faster way, where you can save those views and toggle between them. So I think even if you don't have someone to share the report with, this is a really powerful tool.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, Paul has another question here. Does each stakeholder need to have access to the tool, or can these reports be shared? It can be easily exported via email, for example.
So each of the reports can be exported by email, but when you have to share, the 2 types, obviously there's a share option here, which you can share as a URL itself. Or you can share as part of our enterprise platform. You can share this as share the report for a specific user.
So that means if you're an external user, you'll get a link to a public view of this report where you can't edit, but it's just a view only. Or you can share internally to someone with the tool, and then they will have all the edit functionalities. Okay.
That is right. Yeah.
All right.
And all these reports will be real time, so it's not going to be like a static report. As in how data is flowing in, they'll actually keep updating. So clients actually love that quite a lot.
Thank you, Karthik, for pointing that out. That's for us, it's so implicit that we don't call that out, but it's a real-time report. Yes.
Anup, let's look at that. We got another question here from Felicia about the download options.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at those for that under that menu.
Yes, let's take a look at this. So, as you see, this is categorized really well thanks to our product team. We have the raw data in Excel and CSV, and we go all the way to a statistical package like SPSS. Now, each of those reports have a unique ID and a survey ID associated with it. So if you want to download this data, let's say the marketing data, and your marketing team has a data warehouse very specific to marketing data with only 4 questions, you can download this data back into your warehouse too. So we support.
So when, let's say this marketing report only has 4 questions and you download it, you'll only get data for those 4 questions, not the other 20 on the survey.
Right. So the on the API side, that is still being developed, but on the download of the data, you only get the questions associated with this report. Correct.
Great.
Yep. So even filters, all settings, they will reflect based on the view, and only that view will be downloaded. So if you have certain settings, you want to display answer values instead of the answer code or the index, those all settings are mapped over for each report, and only those settings will be used for exports. So yeah.
Again, just a reminder, this is not prime time yet. As you see, this is a different URL. It will be going live this quarter. And if anybody's interested to do a beta test around this, please reach out, and we're more than happy to make this accessible in a unique environment for you.
Love to get your early feedback on this. It's always super helpful for us as we go through and get these things ready to launch fully.
Good stuff. I'm going to turn the screen share off unless there's something else, Koto, you want to talk about?
No, I think, you know, at this point, oh, go ahead. Sorry. I think we had a question. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a quick question. So one of the things that I'm trying to do on my end is use my survey as an incoming thing for multiple courses. Use one survey and have it auto-populate a spreadsheet, so I have a running list. Is that possible?
Yeah, it is. I mean, Karthik, you can talk about 3 different hacks you do, but which one is your preferred solution?
I think the easiest way to do this would be a Google Sheet, right? So we actually use this a lot internally, right, from our leave trackers to even intake forms from our clients and stuff like that. And you can basically integrate any QuestionPro survey to a Google Sheet, and it's going to keep updating that kind of sheet 100% real time.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Great. Thanks for the question. Keep asking. We've got, we'll be here for another 45 minutes. I think that's the end of the presentation, correct, Anup?
Yes, it is. This is the last slide. If you
right,
want us to go back,
open mic. Yeah, for anything.
I think we can be, if you want to go back to one of our earlier slides, we're more than happy to go deep dive on any of these features too.
Okay, well, if it's open mic, I have another question.
All right.
So one of the things that I am trying to do is use one survey for multiple classes where I create, I'm using one survey for the people who are instructing to submit a request with the information about that class. And then that'll give me a unique ID. And then I'm wondering, can I build a spot in my customer survey where that unique ID can be entered and also verified? Like where it'll pull the information from that other survey?
Karthik, you want to take this on?
This sounds like a Karthik question.
Yeah.
You stumped me.
Yep. Yeah. So actually, I can get back to you actually personally. This is going to be slightly complicated. So what we can do is basically from, let's say you have one survey, which is really the source survey, which is getting all these IDs that you want to reference against. And then you have another survey where you want to validate against these IDs, right?
Yes.
So what we're going to do is we could use a JavaScript in the second survey, which we have kind of a get response API. So real time, it's just going to get all the data from a previous survey and see if the value they entered matches that or no. And we could do real time validation. It's like probably a 10-line script, not that hard. So yeah, I'll reach out to you by email and show you how we can do that.
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Hey, a quick note. So we don't even need to script it now. We've added validation on all text input questions. So if it's text you want to match it against, or compare.
So Sanket, so in her case, like it updates real time, right? It's not like one static sheet. So there's one survey which actually is gathering data real time, and there was possibly another survey which is going to validate against if that entry is in that data set. So it's for that we'll have to do the real time API. But I'll once I get in touch, if it's a static list, then it's even easier. We don't even need a script.
Yeah, makes sense.
Right. I don't think everybody knows that feature set. So if you have a large static list, we have an easy way to upload a large static list you can validate against. So if you're talking about thousands of records, that's easy for us to do. But going back to a dynamic nature, it has to go through either scripting or through a webhook. Either one of it should work. That the list has to be coming through an API.
Okay, I think we've got a couple more questions in the chat. If we're wrapped up there, can you use more than one filter per report, i.e., frequent buyers who are male? Yes, absolutely. Multiple filters can be layered on there. Anup could probably pop that open, but very easy to add multiple conditions with and or logic operators in there.
Yeah, it's super straightforward. You have a new report. Let's call this females only. Create the report. And then I create a filter. I'll go with a question. And I choose the gender question. And I say female selected. And I got a female only report right now, which is dynamically changed here. I don't care about this large dashboard, so I'm going to go to the display settings. I'm going to remove the summary card, come back to display, use the gender.
Anup,
yep.
I think the question is actually how to add a second filter then. So female, let's say buyers, and there's, let's just show that. Yeah.
Question select. Let's do females who buy less frequently. How did you, or females who bought this from the internet? Maybe there's nobody, but let's take a look at it. Oh, there we go. Age and internet. Yep, there's 3 buyers who bought it from the internet. Good.
Right. So it was very easy to do. Yeah.
And I can change this to the text here. Just this defaults to the survey name, so you have to change it if you want to share this with females who bought this from the internet. So, and they have a description column, internet buyers. Change theme. Since we're doing a full demo, why don't we go all the way through and use a different green.
All right.
You know,
lovely. Good choice, Anup. Like that.
It's been too much blue going on.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
We need green.
There we go. We got another question from David Stanford here. This is a toughie. We're going to have to talk to some smart folks for this one. For respondents that answer the same survey multiple times to track changes over time, are there any plans to include a specific respondent's previous answer to show up as a default answers, so they are only modifying questions that may have changed?
Time for an upgrade. I mean, just kidding. Karthik knows the answer.
That's a Karthik question. I think someone who's in the weeds can maybe help David out there. Maybe there's a hack, but I think David's really asking, are we going to build this as a standard function? I shouldn't say hack, a custom JavaScript implementation, but I think David's really asking, as a standard functionality. So let's talk through that.
So hey David, I think there's a couple of ways to do this. If it's just one survey, 1 or 2 surveys, and you don't need this as kind of an ongoing thing, then we do have a script that can easily do this. But if that's something, that you just want as a standard function in the surveys, I don't think that's in a roadmap, at least in the near future. We do have kind of a panel management, a community management tool as well. So if you have members there, then all the questions that they answer automatically get linked to them. And that can then pre-populate into any future survey that has the same question. But it really depends on your use case. So I think I'll connect with you to understand more, but a couple of ways we can do this, depending on what's the end goal.
Right.
And or when you want to unmute yourself, you can do that as well.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks, Karthik. When you do a longitudinal study, the best practice is to go through our communities platform, especially when you want to bring the profile fields. We call them the profile fields, which are the persistent fields on the customer profile itself, which you want to bring back in, which can possibly change when you do the longitudinal studies, right? So, and a good example would be when you say, okay, what's your favorite color? Use that as an example. And I said green for 2 years, and then I changed my mind. At least that change from green to, let's say, purple is recorded somewhere, which you can use for further discovery, further research.
Got it. Okay, hopefully that answered David's question. Again, Karthik, sounds like you'll follow up with him. We can make that happen now.
I'm chatting with him privately, so yeah.
Yep,
I'll
and then we can work on maybe even formalizing a product request. Okay, I got another question here from Daniel. Are there any plans to improve data import to surveys? Currently, I have to enter an existing survey to create new survey data, create a new survey using data import. Looking to be able to easily, repeatedly import a formatted Excel sheet such that I can use a crosstab for stats analysis. Also, being able to save pre-generated crosstabs or use a template for each new imported survey would be excellent.
God, I got a little bit of background feedback there. Koto, I don't know where that sound's coming from.
Oh yeah, maybe
I heard most of it. I heard most of it.
So really around the data importing into surveys. Anup, I think you've dealt with that.
Yeah, so we have, yeah, and maybe there is a specific use case we are not very good at. Maybe that's what, is it David who's asking this question?
This is Daniel.
Daniel, my bad. So Daniel, maybe there's something specific you want to be asking, or is there a question type we are not supporting? Because our spreadsheets, our Excel to surveys are pretty robust because we use that for large scale migrations too.
Anup, I think Daniel means he wants to create surveys, not necessarily upload import data. It's just creating surveys via Excel. So,
well, no, actually, so our use case would be, so we definitely think the QuestionPro has enough question types to cover our bases, but certain use cases just don't allow for us to use the QuestionPro survey software, but we'd still like to use the data analysis features that it comes with. And so we'd like to be able to import our raw data formatted so that QuestionPro's services can read that imported data. But unfortunately, right now, the import process is a little cumbersome, and would just love to see that improved over time.
Got it. Now, would love to go into a little deeper analysis of what you pointed out, Daniel. I think the best person here would be actually Sanket, who's talking here, to find out what is missing. You said you're taking raw data and just importing it for analysis. Is that right, Daniel? Not for data capture. Correct. Okay. So it'll be good to see how you're doing it. What is missing? Like I mentioned, our focus is on getting data for the survey before we do the analysis. But I know you're shortcutting. You're doing a shortcut path here to go straight into analysis, right? So I'd love to see what's missing. And I think devil's in the details on these kind of use cases.
Sure.
Good.
Okay. Good. I got another question. Oh, go ahead, Anup.
I have a ask the audience a question. Anybody here using APIs for enterprise needs? And if that's, and I would love to hear feedback on what's happening around that use case. Is everything going smoothly? Other things we have, are we gapping on certain areas within the integration side of things? I'm assuming nothing so far. That
sounds
that
like
question. Yeah, that question is out there for anybody to
answer. All right. Yeah, if anyone is, let us know. Jennifer's got a good question here. Is there anything on the roadmap around Salesforce integration? Our biggest bottleneck with QuestionPro is that there is a large lift survey to survey to set up pre-fill and integration. I think it'll be great. What'll be great is that if it was user friendly enough for a general user to do instead of a tech member.
Got it. Jennifer, have you seen our latest upgrade to the Salesforce integration? Salesforce integration 2.0?
Yeah.
You have seen it, okay. And you still feel that we are a little behind on the user interface to make it friendlier?
I don't know if it's behind or ahead, but it's still way too technical for most users to do. So they end up coming through me, and it just really slows us down in terms of surveys.
Do you think that's a product gap, or do you think that's a training gap, something we can help with?
We wouldn't invest in that kind of training. It's more that these are people, they're program staff, like this is not in their skill set, and they don't want it to be in their skill set. Got it. But I can imagine, I mean, it's a little hard to honestly wrap my head totally around, but I know that we have used products in the past that were more tightly integrated. So for example, if there were certain fields that we could, like not hard map, but that sort of idea from Salesforce to like tokens, I've seen it called, from Salesforce to QuestionPro, so that they can just pull them into the survey without having to.
Smart. I love that idea. I love the idea, Jennifer. Appreciate that. So you're thinking, pre-map it in advance. Be smart enough.
Yeah, but at the system, or maybe the sub account level, rather than like right now, everything is survey to survey. And I have to set it up and test it on every survey. You did make a change, which is very helpful, that if you copy a survey, the variables and the integration copy, and we are leveraging that. But also every survey is a little bit unique. And so every survey still then has to be tested, and there's always tweaks. And so it's just like how to streamline it as much as possible.
Got it. And in terms of brainstorming, I'm going to do a little bit of brainstorming with you right now, Jennifer. What if we allowed for, the question codes you have in the survey, and we gave it a Salesforce type name? Let's call it customer ID, customer_ID. And we're smart enough to bring that up into our mapping table. Would that help?
At least I could see this helping on the pre-fill side, and maybe 50% of our surveys only get pre-filled. They don't pass data to Salesforce. So that would, I think, help. And most of the time, those pre-fill fields are exactly the same. It's name, first name, last name, email, phone number.
Got it. So let's do this. I think there's a takeaway for us on this one. We have Nilesh, who's our integration master, on the call too. I would, if you have some time, schedule some time with Nilesh to just see how we can make it easier for you folks. And that'll actually come into the roadmap, right? So we'll take it to, we'll call it Salesforce 3.0, I guess, and do some pre-filled, what we call intelligent mapping, so that you don't have to, it's not onerous. Every time you have a survey, you don't have to continue mapping. That's one, I know that's only one part of the problem set, but let's walk through the whole job to be done and see where we can help.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Good. Another question here. Let's see. Looks like Terrence Wong. Are there plans to bring coded versions of profile fields directly into the surveys instead of through the custom variables?
I've heard too much from Terrence, so I'm gonna block my ears.
Terrence, Anup's not answering, and I don't know how to answer your question, Terrence. We need some Anup support.
No, thanks for asking, Terrence. I mean, Sanket, you want to take this on? You've been on Research 3 for.
Hey, yeah, just let me just go to the question.
So Sanket, basically, like right now, anytime, like let's say you have gender and the car you drive or something, right? And the only way to bring that into survey data as of now is custom variables. But the problem that Terrence and even some other clients are actually facing is you forget, like you're already using custom 2 and 3, and then in the survey you might use it again, right? So the ask is to actually have a different set of variables for profiles instead of merging it with custom variables. So is that a part of the roadmap?
Yes, it's not part of the roadmap, Terrence, to be honest. We have not expanded our response set to say this is demarcated for CX, this is demarcated for communities, this is demarcated for profile. These are custom variables which cannot reserved, if you want to call that. That's a term which we have not done that. Now, from a pure data management standpoint, one of the things we have been asked to do is to group stuff together. And when you group, meaning group columns together so that our reporting can make sense. You can drag, right now the grouping is at the block level. But along the same lines, so if you have block being the highest level of the hierarchy, you have grouping happening, your questions happening, we could probably say, these things are reserved. These block of questions are reserved. We haven't thought through it enough, but it's definitely not in the roadmap for Q4 or Q1 of next year. What I would turn is just so that it's critical for Research 3, is to have a conversation with Sanket, who's on the call. You just heard him, and see where we can sneak it in, either as part of the grouping exercise or part of our enterprise roadmap.
So we do have plans early next year to work on our variable mapping, which will make it easier. So if you have like all your profile fields, you can map them to custom variables, and then inside the app, everything will read. So instead of seeing custom 1, you will see gender. Custom 2 will be the designation or whatever field it is. So that might help in here. I'm not sure, but I can connect later to get some in-depth details. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it will be great to go a little more in depth in that. But it's here.
Terrence, is a big challenge that you are accidentally using already mapped fields, or is it more of a management problem, or is it more of a data reporting problem?
I'll say a little bit of both, because the problem is we have a lot of profile fields, right? And right now, the custom variable brings them in as text, but our data analysts want them as codes. So what we ended up doing was basically map the text from the custom variables into a coded variable inside the study with JavaScript. So my question is really, is there a way for me to just do this directly without going through JavaScript? Yeah, exactly.
A secondary storage mechanism, right? Which is what you're doing, right? You have one
exactly. And ideally, if we can just re-ask this question and have it right back to the profile field as well, then that would be beautiful.
Got it. Okay.
Actually, Terrence, there's an easy way to do that, and I'll actually show that to you. Probably I'll get in touch with you tomorrow. There's a very easy way to add a hidden question, at least for now till we enhance that, right? And then just have that profile field feed data to that hidden question. So it actually is like you've asked it, but you don't actually have to ask it. And it's all point and click. It's super easy. I'll show it to you tomorrow.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Isn't that the one you're referring to? Isn't that the enhancement in 2019, the end of, as part of the hype project?
Yep, that's right. Yeah. So in the question code, you just put in hidden, and then in the mapping for that question, you just map it to the community and the profile field. So it's like 3 clicks.
Right. So there's no JavaScript involved in that case, Terrence.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, love to see it.
It's absolutely a good intermediate step before we go enhancing it. Yeah. Good stuff.
Okay, we got another question.
We have John on this, John Johnson on the call, who is championing our customer success team. I just want to make sure everybody's aware that our friend JJ, we call him JJ, is on the call. So if you have any type of customer success, customer, customizations, which we want to bring up in this call and say we can make things better, let us know.
Good. Yes. Thank you for joining, JJ.
You're right. I am here.
Bringing the hype.
For all the customers out there who have been able to, glad to be here for you today.
All right, I got another 1 or 2 questions here in the feed. Keep throwing them in there. Jennifer asked, also, is the ability to hide a question on the roadmap? I'm not sure what this means. Maybe, is that going back to the reporting views? I mean, we have the show hide logic on the survey itself. And then there's definitely the ability on the multiple reporting views to hide a question. I think that question might be related to the multiple reporting views.
No, it's actually to hide it. Sorry, to hide it on the survey. And I know that there's code I can put in the footer, and I do that to hide questions. But the staff making the surveys, sometimes they want something there for internal purposes, but they don't want the respondents to see it, and that's the use case.
So, hey Jennifer, yeah, so almost like an archive, right? Many times you have the question and you want to archive it, so it really the data is still there, but the question is never shown. So if you go to the QuestionPro platform right now, so where you have the question codes on the right, like once you go to the workspace, you have all the question codes. So in any question code, if you just put in space and then the phrase, the word hidden, HIDDEN hidden, that's just going to always hide that question, but it's there from a structural standpoint.
Oh, interesting. Good trick. I will try that.
Yeah, that's an Easter egg.
I think we need a help file. I think we need a help file for this. Like a lot.
It's an Easter egg which 2 people have already asked for. So we should make it no more Easter eggs. We should make it.
we should tell our customers about the cool stuff we build.
Yeah. So it's visible for the editor and not visible for the respondent. Is that right?
Correct. Absolutely correct. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah. Awesome.
So hey, Karthik, since this is coming up the second time, would you want to showcase this right now to the team and show how this is done? I know you have a couple of use cases. Yeah. So I'm going to stop sharing, and this is going to be our surprise gift from our good friend Karthik, because a lot of people have asked for it.
Let me know once you can.
Okay.
Awesome. So I think you guys can see my screen right now.
Got it?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. So I can go into any of my service. So let's say I go into this one, which is mobile features. So I'll actually answer both the questions. One is like, how do I get the data from the community as well? And how do I hide it? So let's go in here. And perfect. So now let's say I got this gender question. So I want it here. I want it to be here, but I don't want to show it to respondents, right? So all I do is go into the question code right here and put in a space and HIDDEN. That's about it. So now if I preview this question, it's not going to show the respondent, but it's structurally there on the back end. There you go. I should directly start with the age. So gender has been hidden. And now what I also want to do is I already have this in my community. So I want the data fed in here so I can maybe do my cross tabulations. I can do banner pivots, or I could do significance testing or whatever I wanted to do, right? I couldn't do that from a variable. So I'm going to go into settings and I'm going to go right here into communities, select the community I want to get the data from, and then just select the profile I want to map it with. As simple as that. And now in the backend is going to feed data from the community so I can do all my analytics. Terence, does that also kind of answer your question? Or at least, at least a workaround till we possibly enhance the system?
I think so. Yeah, I'm gonna try it out and see how it goes.
Perfect.